right now, our usual Tuesday visit. About this time, our good friend, Dr. John Braccio from Regional Psychological Services, joins us to chat a little bit about sharing a little too much of our lives online. Doc, it's great to have you back on. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Well, listen, Happy New Year to Mike, and I think to you, I think today's an interesting topic, one we don't always think about, but it's really can be very important in terms of potential problem area for the socially awkward and the socially anxious, okay, in terms of sharing too much. But let's begin by eliminating our narcissist. The narcissist wants to share information with an often, seductive and always deceitful purpose in mind. So when these persons overshare, they're doing it to really take advantage of you, okay, or tell you how wonderful they are. But the oversharing of persons who have social awkwardness and social anxiety has nothing in common with this, okay? In fact, I've often found persons that are socially awkward and socially anxious are often really very, very sensitive and caring persons. Yeah. The common problem for the socially awkward and socially anxious person is to overshare information in an inappropriate manner. Now, that makes the other person feel uncomfortable. It makes them afterwards upset with themselves, like, oh, my goodness, why did I say that? That was a dumb thing to do. Okay. And I think the thing to remember, this happens when someone may be anxious, when the conversation doesn't seem to be going anywhere, or they feel the need to fill it in with information that goes way beyond. Okay. And for an example, say you're in a checkout lane at the grocery store, and someone asks how you are, and you start talking in detail about all the problems you're having with your spouse. Well, and I've had that happen, that would be inappropriate. And to do this with a coworker or acquaintance would be even worse. So persons often, without thinking about possible negative consequences, do this. So I think it's just, they have to be aware this information can also be used against them. So, and then some persons will do this too often when trying too fast to move along a relationship and turn the person off. That could be another issue. Another reason persons do this who are socially anxious is they worry about how they're being perceived and feel they need to be liked and wrongfully believe this can best be done by giving what they erroneously believe is an authentic presentation. Well, being authentic is quite different, Mike, from sharing information that is not appropriate. If this continues happening to you over and over again, well, and you start picking up cues, you're seeing the cues, people are uncomfortable. Even people will see this, but they just keep doing it. And this can become a big problem in the quality of your social interactions and your friendships. So if this is a problem you're having, it's really, and it's more of a common problem you might think. The following are some suggestions. These are suggestions to do to really overcome this problem. Think before you speak, which is always a good rule, okay? And it makes sense, doesn't it? Think about.
I chuckle because I haven't been good at that often in my life, but yeah.
well, I think that's a common thing of a talker. Let me look in the mirror and see if I can find another one, okay? If in doubt or anxious about where a conversation is going, okay, or there's silence, simply have some questions to continue the discussion rather than rambling on and on and on, okay? Then you can slow down the pace of the conversation when you're speaking. They have more control over what you're saying. Slow down, Nellie. Okay, slow down. And too often persons ramble because of the need they feel to continue the conversation. Okay. Now, and if you're using social media, think before you send the messages, or that you better determine what's appropriate. And if you realize you're entering into a conversation that's going in the wrong direction, shift the conversation. Try to talk about something else. And I think another thing, too, a big thing a person can do is keep a journal of your conversations after them and see if there's a pattern to who and what you overshare. And when you do this, okay, you can use this information to really help you begin to do it less frequently, because this journal really is a link into yourself. And it's something you really want to be able to analyze what's going on, because there are a lot of people that say, why did I say that? This was a silly thing to do. And I might add, you're far better off to feel awkward in a conversation and not overshare than feel guilty for what you've said. And I think you also can talk to family, friends, and persons you trust, and ask them when they feel you've overshared, when you've given information that really was inappropriate or negative. It could be really negative for you. And then really, if you feel that you really do need this, you can seek out a trained therapist to role play with you in conversations you've had where you feel you've overshared information and learn techniques to overcome the problem. So it's a common thing, and socially awkward, anxious people, they get into conversations, they're often not sure what to do, they don't really ask questions enough, and they will just ramble and give too much information. So this is a day to maybe start, taking a time out, analyzing things you can do so this doesn't boomerang back and really hurt you or even keep you from going out and seeing people and doing things for fear of what you might say. So anyway, that's I think a bigger concern than you really might, I don't mean you, plural, we might think is out there. So now's the time to move forward, and maybe journaling is really a good thing to do. Think before you speak. All these things are good techniques to not share too much information that is inappropriate.
Social awkwardness is overcome by, I think, on a base level before you get, you have to kind of develop those habits. But social media has really developed a lot of people into socially awkward people who maybe wouldn't have been socially awkward because we don't interact face to face, and oversharing is so much easier on social media, don't you think?
I really do. I think that, and you can't take it back. Now, it's as bad as it might be to overshare verbally with somebody. You're doing it with usually a person. Now, it could be a group, but let's say a person. But when you're doing it on social media, it's forever. You're putting it there, and people can look at it. You can take it down, but people are going to see it. And in the heat of the moment, we've certainly seen a lot of people have done this. With Facebook is one example. But it certainly happens with any form of communication that you're writing. And another problem too with social media is that there's a nuance in terms when you're talking to people, it can really have a different meaning in terms of when you're talking, whereas when you put it in social media, it's just in writing. Okay, it tends to be that way. So I agree. I think your point is a good one. But yet the problem is with the person who just shares too much. They mean well, they're well-intentioned, but they somehow feel the need to answer any question someone asks them, and there's really no need for that. You can just take a time out, even determine what you're not going to say, and don't be drawn in either. A lot of persons get drawn in, like, what do you think of this person, or what do you think of this situation? And then there are those that when they're in a relationship, they're trying to push it along very much, and they hurt themselves because they scare people. They can scare people by just pushing too hard, by sharing too much information early. So it's an issue, can be a problem, but it's something that can be worked on. I've worked with many people that have worked at getting over this, and so being anxious, socially anxious, and worrying and being a little awkward, it can be an issue. And these are often wonderful people. It's not a question of being with evil, and we're not talking about the narcissist or no. We're talking about good, caring, loving people that they just say too much, and they just don't have the filters on, and they do afterwards. They'll say, "Oh my goodness," or someone will tell them, really, telling that person just about how bad you might think they are, or someone else is, that really wasn't the right time and place. And someone may try to be helpful, but if you can be with people that love and care for you, you can get some good advice from them also. But it can be a tough way to lead a life. The extrovert may get themselves in issues, but they tend to be often, oddly, in spite of those that say a lot of words, often they're much better at not saying the inappropriate things, where sometimes awkward people, socially, they're not quite sure what to say, when to say it, and they often can, put their foot in their mouth, if you will, with good intentions, Mike, but it definitely does happen.
Oversharing is not good. I just, a case in point, just a personal level, I had a business opportunity and I had a guy in mind I wanted to partner with. I said, honey, to my wife, let's have these guys out for coffee. So he and his wife and we went out for coffee. We had a sandwich. All he did was talk about himself the whole time. I never got around to my proposal. Never got around to what we were there for. And when we left as friends, but I said to her, there's no way I'll ever be in business with that guy, ever. Because it's just, I can't get to it. So, opportunities, right? Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services, our guest every Tuesday this time. Doc, I'm looking forward to next week. God bless, and Happy New Year.
Always a pleasure, and the same to you, my friend. Nice. And I'm not sure that person was a narcissist or socially awkward, but you probably made a good decision. Anyway, good talking to you, my friend. Bye-bye.
See you later. 1320 WILS. Back in a minute.